our next session, we have a fun session called Hunting with Hits, Tempo Slaying Monsters in Harmony. I hope I got that right. With Chase Bethea, who's a composer and technical music designer. Come on up.
Hello, hello. Pocket Gamer Game Day 2. My name is Chase Bethea, and today I'm going to be presenting Hunting with Hits, Tempo Slaying Monsters in Harmony. Thank you so much for coming out. I want to thank Pocket Gamer for having me as a speaker. So let's jump right in. So, who remembers the times when Pokemon was like in the first generation? Raise your hand. Anyone? Not really? All right, that's okay. I remember the time where you used to throw the Pokeball and you would get this riveting feeling about that Golduck bursting out of the Pokeball, and it was just so great. Or when you're playing Monster Hunter and you have no idea what you're doing and you just want that epic armor loot just to kill the freaking dragon, and that was just so great. I grew up in Chicago, Illinois, near Wrigley Field, and I was a child. I was living in the high-rise in the 6th floor with my grandmother. And my best friend, Afusa, he lived on the 15th floor. So he gives me a call, and he says, "Are you home?" I said, "Yes." And so 10 minutes later, I hear, "Okay, open the door. You've got to play this." "All right. Can you say hi first?" "Hi. You've got to play this." He was talking about Pokemon Red, and since then I was hooked. So imagine if you take Pokemon and Monster Hunter and you conflate the both of them, you'll get this game called Questlike Pocket. So Questlike Pocket is a game developed by Sprite Wrench, and it's a rhythm hunting monster RPG. It's typical to like Pokemon Go. So if you're familiar with that, you any biome that you could typically go into, you collect different type of monsters, you battle them in the different biomes. And so how we did it, each monster has an encounter type, and I'll be going over what those are. And a specific combat piece and another musical layer is placed on player skill. So you have the uncommon, you have the uncommon, you have the rare, and then you have the legendary monsters. And those specific monsters will be indicative of whatever biome you're in within your municipal. So with the music design, it was very integral that we had 60 BPM, about 30 to 60 seconds of music, and the melody of being a non-reactive layer. And I'm going to go into this a little bit deeper. And so with the percussion is reactive. It means like it's never going to change no matter what biome you're in for the monster, because that's going to be related to the sonic identity. And the percussion is going to be reactive based on how the player is doing in combat, and the baseline will be reactive in counter melody, which I'll be going over soon. And so I had to really, when I score games, I really think it's very important to have a sonic identity typical of the arcade type, whereas no matter where you were in the room, you already know, okay, that's NBA Jam, or that's Mortal Kombat, because you know of the sound. And so I think it's integral to definitely continue that, and building a sound palette of what Questlike Pocket would typically be. That's what I was focused on. So I conflated a bunch of different instruments, and I'll be going through those music designs right now. So in this one, Sprite Wrench, Glenn Henry, his co-founder, he said, "I need it to be adventure, but I need it to be funky." I was like, all right, I got you. So it's funky, but it needs a little bit more. So that was what I was taking about the layers of sections. So that's what for that layer. We're going to jump into the next layer. You can hear it build. So that's the textures of that. And now we're going to add a little bit more. We're going to add the melody. So that melody is what I was saying is going to be sonically identified by the monster type. So we're going to jump into the next type of monster that you might encounter. And for this one, it gets into a little bit more percussive and started thinking about more of the sound palette, what the monster is going to be. And so here's an example of what that sounds like. So I'm going to jump ahead just a little bit. Now, that was just the percussion layer for what that was going to be, because that's going to be where the player is in terms of the design. And so I started to think about what is it going to be like to have this type of quest-like adventure fantasy style. And with that, I was thinking it needs to be like a hunting prep drum circle. So it needs to be big, it needs to be better. And so you're going to hear different Caribbean drums and African drums and pahu pahu and South Pacific type of drums that I wanted to conflate. Just when you don't think it can get any better, it does. So all the percussion layer now is in. There's no texture, there's no melody, just the percussion layer. So now we're going to put in the texture and then we'll add the melody overall and you'll get to hear what that sounds like. And now believe it should be all the layers together. So you're going to have the percussion layer, the melody layer, and the texture all at once. And this is when the player is doing very well in the combat. Let the bass have some. Bring it back. So in the overall design, you can see that we really wanted to make the combat interesting. We didn't want it to be boring. It was easy for the players to understand the engagement of what they were going to be doing with the design. And we made sure that we didn't want to change the style of the game. We just wanted to kind of add a little bit more interactivity so that it just kind of felt right. And so with the layers, here's what I was saying within the design itself. You can see with that little monster up there, is this like non-reactive layer. And then you see this little mouth over here, it's like reactive layer. So the reactive layer is where those instruments of the percussion and the bass line is happening. The non-reactive layer is the melody only. And that's never going to change because based on the biome that you have, we don't going to have that sonic identity like I was mentioned before. And so all I had to do typically was just kind to amalgamate all these layers together with what it is, like I was mentioning, and then put it, and then we had it implemented. So the hack and whack that we did with the hard limitations was mostly just getting the animations to line up, but we didn't want to move that. So that's why 60 BPM was so paramount to have that in there, because we didn't want to move the speed more so or slide it more than it needed to be. So here's a design idea. Showing is better than telling. Here it is all in context. So that was the common type monster. Here is the uncommon types. Here is the rare type. So loop and recapitulation, we was thinking, again, 60 BPM, that's what was the base for the foundation. Layers on layers make layers for slayers for the players. Yes, yes. So the layers of the non-reactive with the layers of the bass and the percussion, those are the layers that make the slayers together. So we're conflating these genres with the Pahu drums and the African drums, the Caribbean drums. This is how we get these things to be super effective. Still no Pokemon fans? Okay, that's okay. I'm the only one. But can we all say this, that we are all hunting in harmony, right? This is what it came to. And then you get to make cool behind the scenes things like this. So Questlike Pocket is actually available on Android. You put it up now, you can download it, whatever, and then you can actually capture those monsters and play and hunt in harmony if you want to. I'm Chase Bethea. I am a professional video game composer. Been working in the industry for about over a decade now. Shipped over 25 games in this time. I specialize in interactive music. Won some awards for my work. If you want to reach out to me, contact me. There you go. Thank you so much.
I wonder.
Question?
I was just going to say, I wonder, does the audience have any questions? This mic seems to be.
Yes, sorry. I have lights in my eyes, so I really can't see.
Seems to not be working. Sorry. The mic.
Oh, okay. No worries. Thanks. Chase, that was great. Great insight into your process. I really appreciate it. Thank you. You mentioned that you worked on 25 games before?
In 25 games in my 13 years, and counting, yeah.
Could you maybe give us some insight into other games you've worked on? I'd love to know what other games we could hear your music in.
Yeah, sure. So I'm mostly known for my work for Aground. Is the game has been kind of related to like Terraria or Minecraft, but it's a little bit better. It's got story and all those things. And I was nominated for the horror score I Can't Escape Darkness, and also Windrush Tales. I'm working on that game, and yeah, it was this kind of Deity Quest, super happy fun block that was on mobile as well. I don't want to run all the 25 like
No,
games.
awesome. That's great. Thanks. Sorry, did you have a question? There we go.
I was just curious, is there a reason that you utilize Cubase over some of the other DAWs?
Yes, absolutely. So Cubase, I used to use Fruity Loops for about 10 years, and then I jumped to Cubase, and then sonically it was just better. It's kind of like when, no slide to any of the engines out there, but on Unity you have to work a little bit hard to get something out of that. But on Unreal, out the box, it's fantastic. That's kind of like what Cubase is for me.
Fantastic. Anybody else? So you just move it all.
Well, you're obviously super talented. I play African drums, and I was really enjoying this. Are you aware of any method to know how changing the music impact the gameplay?
So if I understand your question, how to change the music that goes back to gameplay, is that the question?
Impact.
Impact the gameplay? Typically, mostly through the design, if you're thinking about what the game is going to be doing, then that's the interactive or the dynamic or adaptive approach that you want to do. So if it's the basic thing is if a player is moving from a different area, then the music design will traverse. And sorry, I should also mention I did this without middleware, so no FML, no Wise, no Elias, which I love, no Fabric. So it was just working directly with the developer, and I'm able to kind of conceptualize it once and designing it on index cards. I know it's very archaic, but that's just how my mind works. And then go from there, and then I can see, all right, this is what we want to do, set the foundation, and then go from there. So if you just want to move it to a different area, then you just kind of just start with like 2 instruments and then build it from there and go. And that's how it kind of impact, just tinker.
Very cool. I think we got time for one more. If anybody wants to take a plunge. Nope. Nope.
So if you're not utilizing middleware, how do you get the reactive part of the music to happen? Is it just your communication with the developer and they take over?
Yeah, so I have a little bit of coding experience, but yeah, working directly with the programmer, telling them the idea of the design, what it can do, what it can't do. And if they're doing, well, this developer is working in JavaScript, so he actually knows his code very well. And so we determine, like I was saying, what it can be. And if the programmer is pretty competent, they will understand what you're saying. You just have to kind of link it to, okay, well, these are the parameters, this is what we want to achieve, and then go from there. But really, it's just a really good conversation. Most of the programmers are very brilliant, so they'll understand what you're doing within, 2 minutes of a conversation sometimes, if you're lucky. If you're not, then continue to keep talking to them.
Cool.
The conversation only gets better.
Great stuff. Thank you very much, Chase. That was
Thank you.
fantastic.